So you just finished installing fresh trim. It's unfinished and you're wondering what's next. Today we're diving into the art of prepping freshly installed trim. This is the second part of my series on all things DIY for homeowners. There are several easy steps to take to turn your trim from looking okay to looking amazing. And I'm going to show you them today. You've spent hours installing trim, measuring twice, cutting once, making sure every corner is perfect. But here's the brutal truth. Those nail holes, tiny gaps, uneven seams, they're not going to cut it. They're screaming DIY project. And honestly, this isn't just about painting. It's about creating a seamless, polished look on that trim that's going to make them last for decades. Really, truly. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you the process from sanding, spackling, caulking, polishing final touches so that you're ready to start painting. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how to paint them. Trim installation is just the beginning. The real magic happens when you transform those raw edges into a professional, polished look through careful preparation and painting. Let's break down exactly how to prep your new trim for a flawless finish. I've gotten together a materials checklist that everybody can pay attention to on the screen. There might be a document that you can download too. So here's your materials checklist. You'll need spackling compound. I'll leave my favorite brands up on the screen. Putty knife, fine grit sandpaper. I go for 220. Painter's caulk, a caulk gun, clean rags, denatured alcohol. This is optional. It's if your baseboards are very dirty, but since these are newly installed baseboards, don't worry about that. You'll need primer and paint brushes for later. Make sure to stick it through past the cost analysis and the materials checklist because I'm going to jump right into showing you guys how it's actually done on the new trim. Let's go over the cost comparison real quick. For a professional job, your labor is probably going to be between $150 to $300. It really depends on how much trim you need done. Your materials, $50 to $100. So your total is going to be between $200 to $400. Now, if you do the DIY prep yourself, like I'm going to show you today, your materials are probably going to be between $30 to $75, time investment 2 to 4 hours, and your total comes out to $30 to $75. Now think about that for a second. Your potential savings are $125 to $325, so 80% less expense. It's pretty nice if you ask me. It's why home DIY is so powerful. So you've just installed your new trim, and you're wondering, what is the next step? The next step is preparing it for painting. And I'm going to use this headboard right here as our example for today. This is going to be a multi-step process and I'm going to walk you through the whole process. So beginning with step 1, all of these little holes in the trim that you see here, like right there, all of them, they need to be filled with spackle. I'm going to show you which brand I like to use. DAP Fast Dry is awesome. It's easy to sand, and I'm going to show you the process that I like to fill these holes. I'm going to leave some spackling nail hole tips on the screen while I jump into my workspace and show you guys how to actually prep the trim. So I like to use a thinner, smaller putty knife for these. You know, when you get to the crown part of the molding, you might want to use your hands, but for the flat surfaces, I like to use a putty knife. So you grab just a little bit of that, little bit of the product, just on the end here, and let me show you how to apply it. So the best way that I found to apply it is just by going over it once, and then coming over it again a different direction. So what you want is to leave no air holes, any air coming out of it, and then lightly pass over it again. So now you've got that hole covered and it's very smoothed out and it's going to be easy to sand. So once you've done all of the flat surfaces, you're going to notice that now you have to do these holes. And these are a little harder to do with a flat putty knife like this, so I like to use my thumb. And it's basically the same process. Let me show you. So you grab a little bit on the end of your thumb like so, and you smooth it out with your fingers, just like that. So you want to cover the hole, and then do the same thing. Repeat the process on the next one. Here are some common mistakes that you might want to avoid. Overfilling nail holes. This is one of the most important ones actually, because one, you don't want to spend all day sanding, and two, sometimes when you overfill your holes, you get air pockets, and those pop out later after the curing process, and you'll see them in the finished product. You don't want that. Same thing goes for using too much caulk. Not smoothing caulk lines, skipping the sanding process, and painting before it's completely dry are also very important. So the next step in the process is going to be caulking these seams here. Now it may seem like the headboard looks great right now, but I'm telling you, to take it to the next level, you gotta caulk those seams. It's gonna look great. So the first step is grabbing your caulk gun and installing the tube inside of the gun. So I'm gonna show you how to do that. The brand I like to use is Tower Sealant's Accelerator White. These are great for trim. I highly suggest grabbing a caulk gun like this. You're gonna have one mechanism piece that adjusts the amount that is going to go through the gun. If you have it on this full setting here, it's going to be constantly applying pressure that goes through the caulk gun. I like to have more control. I always keep it on this bottom setting here, where I get to have full control over how much I'm putting out. Once you've pulled your spring all the way back, you grab your caulk gun, you make sure that you've cut a small slit through the end so that the caulk can come out. And you place it into your gun like so, and push this all the way forward, as far as it can go, and apply some pressure, and the caulk will start to come out. When your gun is ready to go, you move up to the seam right here, and you apply just a little bit. Just cover the seam, like so. This small amount right here is perfect for filling the crack in a very visually appealing way. So you use your finger and you smooth along the edge, just like that. See how much smoother that looks. So once that cures, painting it is gonna look great. Now another thing to note, that was just the face of the headboard. You have this whole side that you're gonna wanna do the same thing. Notice how there's one nail hole here, and then there's these gaps along the wall. Those are gonna need to be filled using the same process. The side of your headboard should look something like this now. The cracks are filled, the hole is filled, and it's smooth all the way around. In this particular example, we don't do this side because it's not possible to reach, right? And we wouldn't normally fill this gap anyways because it's pretty big and it would alter the look of the trim just in general. But as a different example, this headboard has it on both sides. So we want to make sure that we do that on those headboards. But here for this particular example, you're totally fine just doing that. So on to the next step. In case you kind of missed it through my examples, here's the preparation sequence laid out for you. You're going to need to spackle your nail holes, let the spackle dry, then sand them smooth with 220 grit sandpaper, clean the surfaces, apply caulk, smooth caulk lines, and then let it dry. You then next do a final sanding just to really coat it, brush it over. Here are some pro finishing techniques that I like to use in my jobs. Use paintable caulk. The caulk brand that I showed you earlier is what I use all the time. Choose quick drying spackle. I like DAP. Use painter's tape for clean lines, and work in good lighting. You want to see everything that you're doing. So at the end of the day, trim preparation might seem a little tedious, but man, does it save you money and time, and honestly, Being a home DIYer myself, it's pretty fun to do. Comment what you want to see next. Our next video is likely going to be finishing the trim, so we've got that covered. If you have any specific videos, I'd be glad to check out. So, peace. Thanks.